I can't see. You should be able to share your screen, Alix.
All right.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining the Wednesday rally this morning. We have Alix Kammeyer from, Alix, I always screw up your name. How do you pronounce it?
It's Kammeyer.
Kammeyer. Kammeyer.
Yep.
All right. From Fidelity Title, and she's going to be talking to us today about all about title, how to read a title report, and what title covers, all of that. So it's going to be super interesting, and I'm happy to have you here. So thanks, Alix.
Thank you. And I want to start off by saying what I just said with regards to we didn't get the docs in time. And this was an over $5 million deal that unfortunately it had to go through 5 iterations of underwriting on the lending side. And that's the reason why we didn't have docs in time. So, you know, and then when you have a buyer who's signing by power of attorney, you know, it's like you have all these documents that you have to sign. So, you know, it was everybody worked. It took a village. Everybody worked hard to get this done, but it did not quite happen. And I blame it on the county because we could have recorded.
You did what you were supposed to do, and everybody else
Everybody
did.
Even the lender did what they were supposed to do. You know, I mean, it wasn't anybody's fault. It just is timing, right?
Yeah.
So it's going to happen this morning, and no big deal.
Yeah.
So what I wanted to talk about today was a couple of things. You asked me to not only cover how to read a title report, but you also asked me to cover some of our tools. So first, let me introduce myself. I'm Alix with Fidelity National Title. I've been in the business for a very long time, and I've been through several iterations of the business, from running an escrow desk in Kodiak, Alaska, where I started the career. And I will tell you a quick story about that because I think it gives you a little idea of what my background is. I have a lot of technical background in this business because when I first started in the business, I was on this little island in Kodiak, Alaska. My husband was in the Coast Guard, and there was an ad in the paper, which the paper was about, I don't know, six columns long, as you can imagine. And there was one ad that said, looking for somebody with a real estate license to run a title company. And I thought, oh, pick me. I have a real estate license. I never sold a piece of real estate, but that does not matter. They simply said, have a real estate license. So I said, I put my hand up. So I got this position, and I was the Lone Ranger, literally a one-person office running a title and escrow company where they did everything together back in those days. So the title and escrow, I learned how to do title. I learned how to do escrow. I did my sales because I had to go out and cultivate business from real estate agents and lenders alike. And I had to record all my own documents with the recorder. And there was one other title company there. And I was there for about 2 years with my husband being stationed there. And on the last day of my position with that company, I was talking to the other gentleman who ran the only other title company. And he said, you know, I'm really glad to see you go. And I said, why? He said, because I took 55% of the market share from you. And I said, you know, Tim, I'm just going to say one thing. You should have hired me. You should have tried to hire me. You know, I mean, not that I would have gone. The point is that, you know, when you're good and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, then other people are hungry to have you come on board, right? I mean, so I learned really the hard way how to do title and escrow. I didn't know how to type. And I had to learn how to do that because I said when I was in high school, I was never going to type because I just didn't want to. Well, you know, here I am years later, still typing. So anyway, and then my career path took me to San Diego, and then out to New Mexico, and then back to San Diego, where I've been ever since. And now I'm on the sales side of things. But again, my world is very technical, as well as the marketing aspect of it. So I just have a quick question, and Shelly, maybe you can answer, or everybody can if they want, is how many people have been in the business for a while, and who's realtor, how, you know, if you're a realtor or a lender or whatever the case may be. So do we have a mix of people here?
Yes. Yeah. We have brand new people, and we have people who've been in a long time. I've been 17 years.
22.
22.
Nice.
Chris, what about you?
10 years.
10? Yeah. And Leslie is newly licensed.
Good. Well, it looks like we have a number of people in the business then. So this is going to be good for everybody. So I want to start out with one of the most used tools in the real estate industry, which is Fidelity Agent One. This is a product that is absolutely free for you guys to download from your app store, whether you're on an Android or you are on a iPhone, or, you know, a what do they call it? iPhone versus Android, I guess. So anyway, either one, you can download it from the App Store. It's called Fidelity Agent One. And the reason why it's the most downloaded app is, first of all, Tom Ferry says it's the most amazing app, which I love that. But what it does is it gives you the ability to do a net sheet really at your fingertips for about 2 seconds. You can do one. And so you can also have a desktop version. And again, I'm telling you, it's absolutely free. There is a paid for version, which is $9.99 a year. And the reason why they have to charge for that is because of SB 133, which years ago took away a lot of the things that title people could do for agents or lenders. So we now have to charge for it. It's not me that charges for it. It's the company that manufactures this product for us. So if you go to your app store, you're just going to create your own account. You don't need a username or a password from me. The only thing you're going to do is when you get to the registration part, you'll say Southern California, so you get the right fees. You'll put your information in. You'll pick me as your rep so that if it ever expires, I need to re-up it for you. And then you can also have a desktop version, in addition to the fact that you can have a logo on there. So again, $9.99 is probably the cheapest thing you'll ever do in real estate. So, and that's for a year, not a month, by the way. So again, Fidelity Agent One. So I'm going to go into Fidelity Agent One on the desktop version. It's a little tiny bit slower than it is when you're on your phone. Okay. So here it is. I'm already on the buyer side. It logs me directly into doing whatever I want to be doing as far as the net sheet is concerned. There's a really cool feature here that you can add an address because it'll pull data like the taxes. It'll pull some other really cool information as far as like a geo report is concerned. So I'm going to type in an address real quick and I'm going to show you some things. So we're going to do Avenida Andante in Oceanside. And you'll see this HomeLink thing. It's giving me the estimated taxes of what they are. So I'm going to hit done. Then all I'm going to do is say, yep, this is a conventional loan. I'm going to put in the home price of $750,000. It's going to assume some things. It's going to assume that I'm going to do a 10% down payment. An interest rate is 6.75. You can change these two things. If the interest rate is only 5, you can type that in. You can type whatever you want in. So it's just making some assumptions, but for being able to do a quick net sheet with a buyer while you're standing there looking at a house, this is a beautiful thing. It'll automatically say it's 30 years. It's going to do hazard insurance. It's going to do the taxes. And then I'm just going to come over here and we're just going to leave that as a Pinnacle escrow that you can change it to whoever you want. And then we're going to just change the closing date. And I'm going to just put in August 12th. So a month from now. And I'm going to hit compute. I'm going to say, yes, I want you to use this HomeLink to devise the property taxes. And then I'm going to hit done and compute. So now I have a net sheet that I can show the buyer, right? I can show monthly payments, what they're going to bring to closing. If I want to look at the detailed closing, I can see it here: lender's title policy, escrow fee, insurance, some of the prepaid costs. This is going to show some of the costs from the lender. Obviously, the lender is going to also do a CD, a beginning CD for somebody on a buyer side. But if you're just standing in an open house and you want to show somebody what they can afford, this is a great way to do it. Hopefully, people that you're taking out have already been pre-qualified anyway. However, this gives you a really good idea. When you're on your phone, there's some really cool features where you can actually take a picture of, like, let's say that you take this person out and they absolutely love the kitchen. You can take a picture of them in the kitchen, add it to this net sheet that you're then going to share with them. And here, when I'm on the desktop, I can only either share as a PDF or as a, I can email it, or I can't text it, but I can social share it. But if I was on my phone, I could actually just stand there and text it right to them, which is really cool, especially if you're looking at a bunch of houses. So let's say that I do want to share this with somebody. I'm going to show you, this is the way the net sheet shows up, okay? But I also want to show you this really cool home report. And this is always going to be on the buy side because obviously it's taking into account that the buyer is looking. And from this property, it's going to show you the conveniences, the schools, the restaurants, the internet speed, the sound score. It's going to tell you how many, restaurants there are and what type they are. And then you can share this with them if you want to. So over here, if I'm on my desktop, I'm just going to say I want to email it. And I simply put the email address in and hit send, and it goes directly to them. I can also just save it as a PDF. You can also do seller net sheets. So I'm going to go back and I want to just hit the back button and I want to come over here and clear this out so that I can show you how you can do a seller net sheet as well.
This is super cool, Alix, and I'm not utilizing this. So
yeah, it is really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it just gives you so many options. So you'll see up here, I got to keep moving this little tab out of the way. You'll see up here the seller. And if I want to do a seller one, it's nice to have information but as an example, let's do that address again. So I'm going to put in the address because it's also going to be able to go out there and pull some details, which I really love. Like it's going to be able to tell me approximately what the loan payoff is going to be. So, you can do a lot of different things with this. So I'm going to go in and put Avenida Andante again, and then it's going to say, yes, I want to use those taxes. And then I'm going to put in, now I know that, one piece that you do need to know is approximately how long ago they got that loan. So I'm going to put in 3% because I'm assuming that it was done a while back. And then I'm going to say, yep, I want to use that estimate because that sounds about right to me of what they owe. I'm going to put in 750,000. If I want to change the broker fee, I can come over here and I can put 2.5 and 2.5, which is what I've seen recently. So we're doing 2.5 to the listing, 2.5 to the buyer broker. I hit done, and then I can say I only want to save this for this particular estimate. And then I'm going to put my closing date. It's already back in August, and I hit compute, and this will give me the net proceeds for the seller. So there is a lot more to this app, but we're going to cover a lot of stuff in this little bit of time that we have. So I just want you to know you can download it from the App Store. If you just want the free version to play around with it, go for it. If you want the one that costs you a little bit more, which is obviously just the $9.99 per year, it gives you some other things that you can do with this. It gives you calculators. It gives you social share things that you don't even need to think about. You just want to, pop something on social media. It has lots of different things that you can use, and it's all for the $9.99. Okay, any questions on that anybody has?
Alix, will you share that in the chat? Yeah,
yes.
Just the link, and then everybody else, you can just download it from your App Store to have it on your phone.
Fidelity Agent 1.
And can everybody see Alix's screen? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, perfect. All right, so then we're going to go to the next one. And if you give me 1 second, I just want to check on the closing, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Oh, you got it. I requested a rush from the payoff as well. Okay, we are confirmed. Can you guys give me 1 second, talk amongst yourselves? Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. I'm going to stop sharing for a second so I can mute.
Congrats.
Cool. I have a rookie question.
Let's hear it.
So on the seller sheet that she was showing, the net closing costs, does that include the realtor commission broker on both sides, or just?
Not usually.
Yes, the net sheet on the buy side, no, but the one on the sell side, yes. It shows both.
Did it show them separately, Alix, or I just saw one, like the total closing costs? So you're saying that agent payouts, commissions are in that?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, good. Did you all download it? I have a little folder too on my phone that has all of my real estate apps in there. So that's, I think, a good idea to do as well. And then we're also, so these tools are going to be really good for all of us. And then Alix is also going to show us just what it looks like to read through a prelim and a title report, so we know kind of what we're looking for in that way. Does anybody have any questions right now other than you, Leslie? And that was a great question. No, everybody's good. Cool.
I will be back in just 1 second. Give me one
You're
more.
fine, Alex. You're fine. Hopefully everybody's day is off to a good start.
I have another question since we're just waiting.
Yeah, good. Bring it
My
up.
day's off to a good start because you were helping me since 7:20 this morning.
My pleasure.
So is there any, and this is an Alex question when she comes back, is there any downsides to using this? In other words, let's just say you are at an open house or you're having a conversation with a buyer and you're using this tool to, as a sort of loose pre-qualifying number. Is there a risk that it's going to be way off from what the lender is going to come up with? And
that's a good question for Dean to answer. Dean is a lender.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. So, just I'd have to really look at the app, but you'll get a pretty good idea, but you definitely want to advise someone to, make sure they double check with a lender.
Always.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, that's,
yeah.
yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
so I
especially,
would, I would suggest, thank you, Dean. I would suggest that you maybe, Dean, you download it as well. And try it and just see how close it comes. And then you can advise, some of these folks too, as to whether or not you think it's a good fit for them. But, the one thing that I would also say is that it absolutely says on there that it is just an estimate. And that's all you're trying to do is get somebody to understand what their monthly payment is going to be. Because honestly, Dean, you probably could say this, better than I could, but people typically buy a payment. How much am I going to be able to afford on a monthly basis? They want to know what's my nut to crack every single month. Because if they can't afford the monthly payment, it doesn't matter what, whether they love the house or they don't love the house. I mean, obviously they can put more down or whatever the case may be. So this is just basically to get you to a point where you're showing people what they could possibly afford. And again, if they've already gone and gotten pre-qualified, they're going to be having those deep conversations with the lenders anyway. Just like I would recommend that if you're really, down to the nitty gritty with a seller, you might want to get the net sheet from your escrow officer because they're going to include proration of taxes properly and that kind of thing. But this is, again, just to get you to a place where you can have some, conversations with people. What I love about that geo report that we were talking about is if I'm holding an open house, what a great way to tell people what else is in the area. People know, but it's like everybody who drives up to a house to see an open house already knows it's 3-bedroom and 2-bath. They know that, right? They've looked online. I mean, unless it just happened to be a looky-loo driving by, typically people know what they're looking at. So having that geo report that you can do from the buy side is a great tool to say, did you know that there's 17 restaurants around here? 3 of which are pizza places or 2 Chinese, or Thai places or whatever the case may be. So just a great tool for you to look at. The next we're going to talk about, and then we're going to do prelims. The next one we're going to talk about is the Fidelity Total Farm. Chris, I think that you and I went over the Fidelity Total Farm one time just to give you an idea of what you can do in this.
Yes.
So I'm going to show you, first of all, how to sign up. Okay, you click on the sign up button, you fill out this information. It's the only thing that you need from me is 2 things. Is one, select your rep. You come over here. There's lots of us. So you get down to San Diego. And when you get to San Diego, I'm at the top. You pick me. And then I'm going to give you your system access code, of which I'm going to put in the chat right now. Let me see if I can do the chat. The system access code. Make sure you do a capital F for Fidelity, the #, and the number 1. And there it is. That's the system access code, except for I spelled Fidelity. No, I did. I spelled it right. Okay, there we go. So once you've signed up, then I'm going to log in and I'm going to show you what you can do in this. This is an amazing tool. So we're at 9:21. I'm probably going to take about 10 minutes on this, and then I'm going to shift over how to read the title report. How to read a title report could be a whole 2-hour class, but I'm going to give you a high-level overview. And then if you have questions, you can call me and we can do something together if you want, or we can come on again and do it again.
Perfect.
So in this Fidelity Total Farm, this, we do farms for people in our farm department at Fidelity. But we, about probably 7 or 8 years ago, we developed this product based on people's needs. If you're sitting at your desk at midnight and you're like, I really got to find a buyer house, and you want to go in there and look and see whether or not there's any opportunities, that's why this was developed. If you want to be able to consistently, send out a postcard to your farm, we can help you with that through here. We can also do it in our department. It's just that we wanted to give the power of being able to do things for yourself in here as well. So what you see here is all the farms that I have already created. When you go in and create this, you do it your own username and whatnot for this, you're not going to have any of this part because you haven't created a farm yet. Okay. So once you create the farm, you're going to be able to see what it looks like. So I'm at the front page showing that I have 120 different farms in here. Obviously, nobody's going to farm 120 different farms, but I do the test so that you can see it, and I do little ones so you can see it. So the first thing I'm going to do is show you how to create a farm. So you go into create a farm, you can pick, I want to do a polygon, a zip code, a city, a subdivision. Okay. Let's say I want to pick a subdivision. I can actually, let's get out of here for a second. If I want to do a subdivision, go out here, I can come into the actual subdivision area and I can do it from here. So I want to just put in the city of Carlsbad. And once I do that, I'm going to say I want to just continue. And it's going to bring up all the subdivisions that are already done in here for people. I'm going to widen that screen just a little bit so you can see it. And then as I click on these little subdivisions, it's going to show you, okay, this is the terraces at Sunny Creek in Carlsbad. It has 183 properties, 170 of them are single family, and it's going to give me a turnover ratio. And I want to stop there for a second because the turnover ratio is super important when you are doing farms, because you don't want to, farm a place unless it's your actual neighborhood. You don't want to farm a place that has like a 1% turnover ratio, because that means that people aren't moving. So you're spending money in a farm that's not doing anything. And, the money that we make today is super important, right? The money that we spend on farming, whenever you think about farming, you really want to think about a budget. What am I going to do every single month? Unless you just want to do something around each of the properties that you either are representing a buyer or representing a seller, which is also farming, because you're like, let's say you have a listing and you had so many people come into the open house. Well, it might be a good opportunity to farm around that area. If you have a buyer where you know that you beat out 10 other offers, then it might be good to do it around that area as well. It's not inclusive or exclusive to anybody. You can do whatever you want. So you can certainly do it through here, or you can simply say, hey, Alex, I want 250 around the property I just sold or the property I just listed, whatever that works for you, because my farm department can make it super easy for you as well. Let's say I had a buyer that was looking in this area. I could go in here and I could say, I want to create that farm, and I'm just going to leave that farm name and I hit create. And now it's creating it for me. It's super easy. It's a subdivision that's already mapped out. I'm just going to hit create the farm. It's going to create it, and it's currently creating it at the moment. And as soon as it's going to pop out to the other screen. And then I'm going to show you what you can do with it. So I'm going to say, great, it's done. So now I can come back here and view the farm, and here it is. Now you'll notice that turnover ratio changed. And here's the reason why. When that original one was created, it was created probably, I don't know, about a year ago. And that was the turnover ratio then. So now that I've recreated the farm, this is an active turnover ratio. So I might go, if my buyers are really looking in that, I need to really be considering how I want to use this particular farm. So I have some other things I want to show you. I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to say, okay, so there's 173 records in here. Now I can come over to this farm filter or over to these things, and I can say, okay, who are the recent buyers? There's one recent buyer, and that's within the last 90 days. So I'm going to select that person, and I'm going to say, I want to move that person to flagged. And the reason why I want to flag them is because I don't want to farm to the person who just bought 90 days ago, right? I mean, it's only one person. It's not going to really matter that much, but hey, $1 is $1, and that's about what it costs you to farm to these people, okay? But out of those 173 people, I might say, look, I have a buyer who's looking in here, and there are 3 out-of-state people. Maybe those people want to sell their property. So I'm going to say, I want to come over here and download that information. I can come over and I can download a CSV file. I can say I want to remove any duplicate orders. I can hit the word OK, and it's going to create a CSV file for me. And then I'm going to say what I want to do with that. Now, I may not even have to do a CSV file. Maybe I'm just going to write down, I mean, here it is if I want it, and it's going to open it up and there it is, right? So now I have a CSV file of those 3 people, and I might just say I want to write some postcards to them, or I want to write a letter to them, or whatever the case may be. So it gives you all the details. It gives you, it's 3 bedroom, 4 bath, 4 bedroom, 3 bath, single family. It's how many square feet it is, the sale date when they bought it, like this one bought 2003, 20 years later, maybe they're willing to sell it. And you may even come to them with an idea of doing a 1031 exchange, right? So there could be a number of reasons why you would farm to just out-of-state people. Now, absentee people, we have absentee, which are inclusive of the 3 that are out of state, okay? But I only, out of the 173 people, I have 31 records. So I could take those 31 people, especially if I'm looking specifically for a buyer, or maybe I'm just looking for listings. I could take those people, talk to them in a letter format about 1031 exchanges or whatever the case may be. Whatever your message is going to be, we're breaking this information down in little niches so that you have the ability to determine how you want to market to those people. Here's the cool part. We have farm filters. I'm going to come over here to the farm filter, and you're going to notice that something changed. Now we have another thing that's called focus farm. I can come over here and I can say, I want to only market out of the entire 173 people to people who have owned 13 plus years. Okay, 90 people have owned 13 plus years. This must be a really popular neighborhood if I have 173 people and 90 of them have lived there 13 plus years. Let's take it a step further and see how many people have lived there 25 plus years. None of them. So now we know that between 13 years and 25 years, we have a group of people that have lived there for a very long time. So if I want to come back here, I might say, okay, I have another little tab called Ready to Sell. I have 7 people in this 173 data farm that are 7 people that are ready to sell. Again, 2 things. If I'm looking to do a listing, I could send these 7 people letters, right? And I could say something to the effect of, we have buyers that are looking in your area. If you've never thought about selling, this might be a great time for you. I've included a, CMA to show you what your property is worth. Please let me know, have a call to action in that information, right? Even if you don't have a specific buyer for this area, this is a good way to market to people that are theoretically ready to sell. Okay. And they have a couple of algorithms that they use to determine whether they're ready to sell. They don't give us their secret sauce because otherwise it would be no secret sauce to anybody. Okay. But they definitely have. I will tell you, I was showing this to somebody else and we did the ready to sell. And one of the listings that they had was the people that are ready to sell. So I'm telling you that this information is pretty accurate. It's not like you're going to send them one letter and then you're going to get a listing. But if it were me and I was looking for business, I might create 5 or 6 or 7 farms that I liked, areas that I wanted to be in. And then I would go into the ready to sell, and that would be my marketing campaign, because you don't have to market to 1,000 people at a time. If you want to market to 1,000 people at a time, feel free, but you don't have to. Okay. What you want to think about is you want to think about how I can niche that out. So again, out of state, absentee, farm filters, ready to sell, or whatever the case may be, whatever it is that you're looking at. So before I go on, because there's a ton of information in here, I want to see if anybody has any questions.
My only question was going to be, how do they determine that? But you already said we don't know what their algorithms are, but they seem to be pretty accurate.
Right.
So I love that
Anybody
ready
else?
to sell.
Can you use this in 2 different states? I have a license in California and Arizona.
So I don't know, that's a good question. I mean, I would need to see whether or not we could, whether or not there's information in here in Arizona, but I will let you know. So who was talking? Was it George?
George Akers.
Okay, George, I will let you know. Would you put your phone number in the chat for me?
Sure.
And then I'll grab that and I will keep you posted. I don't know that this is a national platform, but I will get back to you on that. So good question.
Okay.
Anybody else?
And then how was the turnover rate calculated? What was the length of time on that one?
So the turnover ratio is calculated based on a rolling 12 months.
Got it.
How many homes have sold over the rolling 12 months? That's how it's calculated. Okay, so the other thing that you can do in here, there is a premium section to this farm, but this is like, okay, so think about this. If I am going to market to 1,000-person farm and I want to continually market to that farm every single month, I want to send a postcard and I want to monitor for life change events, right? What it's going to do in the premium section, you do not have to do anything with the premium section, but if you wanted to, you'll notice that this bar changed. It has notice of default, notice of trustee sale, phone, email, marriage, birth, death, divorce. Okay. So notice of default, I want to tell you a quick story. We have a gal that was doing a farm. This was years ago before this before this product existed, which is why I love this product. And by the way, this product updates itself every 2 weeks. And this is the reason why I love this product. So let's say I'm marketing in a particular farm and I'm sending something every single month, every single month, every single month. And it happens to be the neighborhood that I live in. So the story is that this particular person was marketing in her farm and she got a door knock about midnight. 11:45 or yeah, about 11:45 at night. And there's a woman standing there just bawling in tears. And so this agent said, "Oh my gosh, what's wrong?" And she says, "Well, I'm one of your neighbors and I know you sell real estate and I just wanted to see if you could help me. My house is going to sale tomorrow." Okay, not just notice of default, it's going to sale tomorrow. So if you guys all understand how a notice of default works, they first file the notice of default, then you have 90 days to cure it. And then they have the right to file, the lender, this is the beneficiary of that note, they have the right to file a notice of sale. And the notice of sale means that the house is going to auction. And at that point, you have about 2 weeks, depending on how long they set the auction date for, before they sell it at the courthouse steps. Now, there's lots of different things that can happen in between. The first 90 days, you can cure it. You know, or you can sell it, or you can do whatever you want, right? When it's a notice of sale, you could file a borrower could file a bankruptcy to stop the sale. There's lots of things that you can do. However, again, I'm talking about if you are going to be marketing a particular area, and in that area, you get a notification in your total farm that there's a notice of default, right? And you go, huh, interesting. I want that information. Well, because again, SB 133, they have to charge for that information, which is only 8 cents. So you click on notice of default and you say, yes, I want that information. You pay your little credit of 8 cents, which I'll show you how to load your little credit. And then you're going to get the address for that. Now, this is how I would handle a notice of default. I would probably drop off a little note with a CMA showing them what their property is worth. I wouldn't knock on their door and say, I might knock on their door, but I wouldn't say, hey, I noticed your house is in default. I would simply say, I'm in the neighborhood talking to people about the value of their home. I would love to be able to give you the value of a home. And by the way, I have myself and colleagues that have buyers in this area. Well, somebody, back in the heyday during the notice of default, which probably some of you have been in the business long enough to remember, the short sale and the foreclosure market that we were in, people put their head in the sand. And they got really super angry. I mean, that was a different market than what I think it is today. There's a ton of equity in this market. However, life events happen. It could be maybe they were taking care of their parents and they've used all their savings and then they lost their job, but they still have $500,000 worth of equity sitting in their home. Well, this is a good opportunity for you guys to use your skills to show them how you can help them out of a really bad situation. So if they weren't there, I would leave a CMA with a note card just saying I'm in the area talking about values of the home. We have buyers. I would do it again and I would do it again and I would do it again. Every week I would drop something off to them because eventually they're going to need somebody's services. So you can then get a full property profile and see. I mean, first of all, you'll be able to do that right from here, but you could call me and say, hey, let's look at this notice of default and see what's really going on. How far back are they on their payments? Is this really feasible? Let's look at what the loan amount was. Can we, help them with this situation? But I think this is a great opportunity for people to know what's happening in their farms. Now, could you set up 10 or so farms and just do notice of defaults? Sure. You might be waiting for a while because there's other products out there like Property Radar, where if that's really your gig, they'll send you, defaults on a regular basis if there are any. But I just think this is a great feature for you to be able to use. Phones and emails, I'm going to show you how to get those in a different section. Marriage, birth, death, and divorce. Again, those are specialty things, right? If you don't know how to handle them or that you're not going to do something on a regular basis, I would tell you don't even bother, because it's, first of all, $5 per record. And secondly, if somebody gets married, they may have already made a decision to buy something. The one that I do like which I hate to say this, is the death one, because I like the fact that you can work with probates, right? This is not probates, this is the filing of death certificates. But I do think that there's opportunity there. If it were me and I wanted to do probates and divorces, I would go direct to develop relationships with attorneys. I wouldn't necessarily use the data in here. But life-changing events are why people sell. They're why people buy. You know, everybody knows that if you're having a second baby and you're living in a one-bedroom apartment, you're going to need to think about buying something bigger or renting something bigger. If your parents pass away and the property goes into probate and you live in Wisconsin and the property is located in Carlsbad, you're going to have to figure out what you're going to do with that property. And that's the reason why all of these life events come into play when we're doing things like this. So let me show you how you fill your credits. There's a little thing right here. You can see this $32.78. I have money just sitting in there. So I go in here and I say, yes, I want to put my credit card on file. I don't put my credit card on file where they're going to have access to it. I say how much money I want to hold in here. So if I wanted to buy phone numbers and emails, I'm going to show you how to do that. So maybe you want to put $100 in here and you leave it there. Then they just wipe out your credit card. They don't keep that information. So it's not like they're going to continue to have it. So if I said, yes, I want to refill, you're going to notice it's going to ask me for all my information again. Okay. So that part makes sense to everybody?
Yep. That's cool.
Okay, great. So that is the premium feature. I'm going to go back in and show you one last thing in here, and then we're going to move on to how to read a prelim. And if you have questions on this and you want more information, just put your information. Shelly knows how to get a hold of me. You can email her and you can come to me directly and I can do a deeper dive into Fidelity Total Farm, because I am doing a very 30,000 foot overview. There are a lot of other features in here. So let's go into this particular farm on Seaside. And let's say that I want to, this is an area that I want to market. Again, maybe it's that 1,000 person farm that I'm doing. I'm monitoring, I'm emailing, I'm, doing whatever. I'm sending postcards out. Here's how you can get emails and phone numbers that are pretty inexpensive. And I will tell you that just like every other email and phone number, they are the holy grail, right? And so they're not always 100% accurate, but it's going to get you pretty darn close. So here I'm going to come down to actions. Everybody see that button down here?
Yep.
I click on it. I say, get emails and phone numbers. I say, mailing address, get email and phone number. The reason why I want the mailing address
I wanted
is
to see what your schedule looks like today, if we can
Great.
schedule a call.
Let me mute. Thanks, Chris.
so
Alex,
right now it's processing the emails and phone numbers. And so then it's going to give me an opportunity to tell me, okay, out of the 1,148 records I have in here, I could potentially get 861 phone numbers and 804 emails, which is pretty good. Now, out of those, you're probably going to get 60% of those that are going to be good, maybe 50% of those that are going to be good, but they're super inexpensive. So remember I talked to you about filling your wallet? If you fill your wallet ahead of time, the information is going to cost you 6 cents a record. Okay. So we're talking about a total of $99.90. Now, if I was farming this area continuously, I would think $99 is going to be a good investment of my time and money, right? Because it's not that big of a deal. So then I would just say, yep, I want it. And I click on the card. I can't do all of that now because obviously I don't want it to charge me. But I will show you what's going to happen after the fact. So I'm going to come back out here to the Seaside one. And I'm going to say, okay, here I am in this particular one, or Seaport. And then I'm going to say, I want to get those records. When you buy phone numbers and emails, it takes about 2 to 3 hours for them to go out and grab all that information from different sources. So give it a couple of hours. And then when you come back, this is where you're going to find your information. You're going to go to actions again. And then you're going to go to get emails and phone numbers. But now you're going to go down to this button that says go to reverses. Once I go to reverses, you're going to see there's nothing here. But because I did buy that particular one back in August of last year, I'm just going to put that information in. And this is what it would look like. Oh, sorry, didn't do it. What? Search. There it is. So if I had just bought those and I came back in 2 to 3 hours later, you're going to see this sitting here. I'm going to click on it. And it's going to open it up. And then it's going to give me a spreadsheet.
Office registered with EXP as a branch
Chris.
office.
Hey, Chris, you're still not on mute.
Okay.
There you go.
Sorry,
All right.
sorry.
So that's all right. You're good. So here are where the phone numbers are. And if I had purchased emails, they would be right here, the first two columns. Okay. Any questions on that?
Nope.
Okay. So then all you would do is download this, save it to your desktop, and then you can do whatever you want with it, however you choose to use it. Okay. So I don't want to save that. Okay. So we're going to move on and get out of this particular thing. Let me just write down a couple of things in the chat. I want to write down George's phone number first before I lose all of this information.
That is a lot of info, Alex. So if anybody wants, well, first of all, this is going to be recorded. So you guys can go back and watch this to you know, keep up with the info because it is a lot. But the tools are amazing. Alex,
Yeah, they really are. I mean,
can you turn your camera back on? We can't see you. Alex.
Me?
Yes.
Oh, my camera's not on?
Mm-mm.
Sorry about that. Hold on. Absolutely.
Your
I'm going to
pretty
stop
face.
sharing so I can get to... There you go. Okay, sorry
There
about that. I
you
must have
are.
when we were sharing before. Okay, so now I'm going to share my screen again, and I'm going to show you a little bit about the title report. So may I ask, first of all, before I do this, Shelly, are you okay with me sharing the property on Moonstone?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So this is the preliminary title report that we're going to go and show. Scanning thing. And here it is. All right. Can everybody see that?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I want to talk about the preliminary title report, which is the tools are amazing. And that's how we help you to grow your business. But I will tell you how we try to, first of all, do what we do, which is to issue title insurance, but also to do the curative work. This is where I love this part of the business, because to me, I have such a vast knowledge of title insurance, and being the detective, you know, I wanted to be a private eye when I was a kid. And so I think that this matches for me because I love digging into these and figuring out how we can cure things, fix things, help understand things, whatever the case may be. You know, and I will tell you that nobody is infallible, right? Everybody, you know, has things, issues and that kind of stuff. And there's times that we pick up information that may or may not be accurate. But I tell you, when I like, as an example, when Shelly and I do business and she has a listing, she always comes to me and says, can you open up a preliminary title report before we even go to market? And the reason why we do that is I want to be able to review that and see if there's any issues that we need to cure beforehand. So I had a conversation with an escrow officer yesterday. She said, you are the only person in this business out in the field that goes through these title reports and fixes things before it even gets to escrow. And she said, and I can't thank you enough, because there's issues that you have. Maybe it's the vesting. Maybe it's the fact that there's liens and judgments on there that need to be cleaned up. Maybe it's because we need copies of trusts and we need, you know, to whatever it is. So I'm going to go through some of this to show you how a preliminary title report works. First, you're going to see up here the property address. Whenever you get a preliminary title report that's on one of your listings or on one of your sales, make sure that we're using the right property address and that this is actually the property either that your buyer is buying or that your seller is selling. And then you come down here, you're going to see our order number. You're going to see who the title officer is. You're going to see that address again, and then you're going to see who the escrow people are. You page down a little bit, and this is where it gets good. Okay. The effective date is the last date that information was available from the county, and it's what they call the effective date. Okay. So there's two things that you need to be aware of here. Number one, it says the estate or interest in the land hereafter described or referred to as covered by this report is a quote unquote fee. And that means it's fee simple. There's also an easement parcel, which I'm going to show you in a minute. If it were a condominium, this is where it's going to tell you that. Okay. It would have the condominium verbiage right here. Then we want to look and see who owns the property. Now, this is a good one because we have, it's in a trust, but then we also have subject to items number 16 and 17. So I'm going to page down to those two and show you what I mean. But I want to talk to you about this for a second before I do that. Whenever people change title without title insurance, there's always going to be a subject to item, because the title company, me or any other title company, does what we call, we back vest to the last insured deed. And here's the reason why. The whole point to title insurance is to make sure that you're passing what is considered to be free and clear title to the incoming buyer. And when I say free and clear, I mean there's nobody else has an interest in the property. We've done an extensive search to the public records. So that means that hopefully there's no, things hanging out there that we missed. But, so I'll give you an example. There's two types of searches. One is the property search, which is searching the actual property, and it's going to show you mortgages and easements and encroachments if they're a record. If there's a survey of record, it's going to tell us that. Not all properties have surveys of records. It's going to tell us what track map it's drawn from, right? How did they create this property? It's going to give us the APN, but there's also what's called a general index search. A general index search searches your name, right? Or not your name, but the buyer's or seller's name. And the reason why they do that is because things attached to the property, like federal IRS liens, judgments, child support liens, all of those things attached to the person who owns the property. And that's the reason why it's called a general index search. So I'm going to give you one example while we're here. Let's say that, and I don't know what 16 and 17 say, so we're going to get to that in a minute. But let's just say that these two people were husband and wife as joint tenants, not of the trust, subject to 16 and 17. And in 16, it was the husband who deeded to the wife, right? And she's now, a single, they're unmarried, they got divorced. And so she was awarded the property through her divorce settlement. And then during that period of time, what they did was they deeded the property to her. He's gone. He's living in Costa Rica with his new girlfriend or whatever the case may be. Now, 10 years later, she's going to sell the property, right? What it's going to show in 16 and 17, if in fact this were the case, it would show that we need an affidavit of uninsured deed because the deed that he deeded to her was without title insurance. But more importantly, we have to do what's calling clear his name. So let's say that we get into this transaction and she says, well, I have my marital settlement agreement because I was awarded the property. Why do we need him? He's in Costa Rica with his girlfriend, and this is how irate people get about this kind of stuff. I'm going to say, okay, take a breath. We can take the marital settlement agreement. But what I also need is still some information about him. I need his social security number or something. I don't, but the title the title officer does, because we have to run his name from the time that he owned the property until the time he stepped out of the property. So let's say that was 10 years ago and they bought it 10 years previous to that. I need the first 10 years to see whether or not there was any liens against him specifically. And I will tell you that kind of stuff pops up and it is never pretty. So that's the reason why if you're doing a listing, you want to make sure you get in front of this traffic jam that's going to happen if you're in escrow and all of a sudden everything is blowing up because you didn't have the right information. So let's page down to where it says 16 and 17 and see what's going on in this one. We know that it's a trust. And I would imagine that something has transpired. Okay, so we have an affidavit of death of trustee. So we need, in this particular case, we're going to need a full copy of the trust, which we already have in this transaction, to see what's going on. So see these little hyperlinks? I can click on that, and it's going to take me out to the affidavit of death. Okay, so Myron was the first person on title, and now he's deceased. So his wife, Carol, filed the affidavit of death of trustee, and here's where the death certificate is. So that's great. Okay, that's fine. So we know he's now deceased, and what we need to make sure of is that Carol was in fact the only remaining trustee. And that's the reason why we need a copy of the trust. But we also have an item 17, which I have a feeling that Carol might be dead as well, or deceased, excuse me, not dead, deceased. So we can get kind of callous when we are like talking about these things. So I didn't mean to sound like that. So then we have an affidavit of death, and now she's deceased. Okay. So whoever signed this is Charles. And my guess is Charles is probably the son or somebody who was related. I guess it's probably the son. I don't know that for a fact, but we have somebody else who has passed away. So now we definitely need a copy of the trust because we have what's considered to be a successor trustee who's signing on behalf of this property. So right there, if I'm representing the buyer, I'm going to want to make sure, and because Shelly is working with us on this one, she knows that I've got her back and that we're going to make sure that the right person is selling this property. Because what she doesn't want to do is get 3/4 of the way into escrow and figure out that Charles never had the right to sell it anyway. Okay, that Charles is some estranged uncle who happens to have the same name and knew that these people passed away and they didn't have any kids and they decided to come in and sell it. Well, it happens all the time. I'm telling you, this business is the strangest thing when it comes to who thinks they can do what. So you need to make sure that you're crossing your T's and dotting your I's when it comes to the vesting of the property. I know that was kind of long-winded, but this is super important because it's one of the biggest critical pieces to the puzzle. I used to run an escrow desk in New Mexico, and I can tell you some crazy stories about what people try to do. So I was the notary and the escrow officer, and I was sitting in a closing one day. We used to do all of our own signings. There was never any mobile signing companies, and we had the seller come in, and we were sitting there, and the first thing I do is take out my notary book, and I said, "Can I please see a form of ID?" which is going to be their driver's license. And so the woman sitting there says, "Well, I left mine in the car," and I just closed the book and I said, "I'll wait." Because I can't do anything unless she gives it to me. So she goes, "Well, I don't even know if my purse is in the car." I said, "Then we need to reschedule the appointment. I'm sorry, but I need your, if I'm going to notarize your signature, I need to have that information." Well, it turns out that wasn't even the person on title. It was the husband, but it was his girlfriend. The wife was visiting the mother and had been with the mother for 2 months. They were estranged, and he tried to sell the property without her. We were in escrow getting ready to close. And had I not stuck to my guns and said, "I need to see a copy of your driver's license," we would have been, it would have been bad. So I'm telling you, people do the weirdest things. I mean, none of us on this call would even think. I always say to my husband, "I don't know what possesses people." And he said, "It's a good thing you don't know what possesses people, because if you did, you'd be doing the same thing." Right. And I don't get it, but that it happens all the time. I'm telling you, fraud is like probably our one biggest loss when it comes to claims for title insurance. And we are probably the largest title insurance company in the nation with regards to how much we have in reserve for those very things, for claims. So of course we like to do all of our due diligence in advance to, make sure. And that's why, like, we have a notary list of when we're doing, because there's so many mobile notaries now, you have to have the grant deed signed in front of a notary that's been approved by Fidelity. And the reason for that is for that very reason. Imagine some, notary who just doesn't care and says, "Yeah, whatever, just, I don't know, give me a credit card or something. Let me see who you are." Not going to happen on our watch, right? So now we know from all of that the one thing I need that's critical is a copy of the trust, right? So that's that. Then we're going to get down to the legal description. So the next thing, you guys always use your parcel number as part of your contract and what you're putting in the MLS, etc. So when you get your preliminary title report, again, I'm just going to tell you, look at the APN, make sure it's the right property, that somebody didn't search the wrong thing. Used to be back in the day before we had DocuSign, when we got a copy of the contract, we had to decipher, is the address 3633 or is that an 8 or is that so you'd always want to confirm, what is the address, what is the APN? Here's your legal description of the property. Most people don't understand legal descriptions. Most people don't understand how to read a plat map. But remember when I told you up here there was a parcel 2, a fee, and then a parcel 2? This is an easement. So this is a non-exclusive easement over and under the common area for this particular tract and subdivision, okay? Next thing you're going to see are the exceptions. I want you to think about a bouquet of flowers, okay, or a bunch of sticks, and you have a whole bunch of them. And then as we go through these exceptions, each one of them, you're going to set, for each exception, you're going to set aside one of the stems or one of the sticks. And remember when you took your, excuse me, 1 second, sorry. One moment, please.
Oh, all right. She's checking on stuff. Are you guys getting some good information from this?
Yes, sure.
Good. Perfect. And it's nice that we're recording, as I said, because then you can go back and reread it. And when you're actually looking through a title report, just like anything else, it makes more sense when you're actually doing it. So I'm happy that we have Alix today. That's
all right. Here we go again. Sorry.
Okay.
All right. So think of that when you were in your class, you probably did this thing that was called the bundle of rights, right? If you remember that from when you took your test, the bundle of rights, that's what we're talking about here. So what it relates to are the exceptions. So property taxes are always going to lean against the property unless, okay, so we have like 4 minutes. Let me finish this up really quick. So the property taxes are always going to be a lien against the property which are not yet due and payable. They will take precedence over any other kind of lien. Now, the good news is that the tax assessor doesn't go for a tax sale until you're delinquent for 5 years. But if there's any delinquency on our preliminary title report, we're going to make sure it all gets paid. It will never transfer to the new buyer. Okay. Any of the property taxes that the seller has will never transfer to the new buyer. However, I do want to show you and tell you one quick little war story about what just happened to us on a transaction. We got a notification. This is almost probably, I don't know, 6-7 months ago, where that the property sold and closed, and the buyer's agent calls and says, why are there taxes on here, supplemental taxes that are for the old seller? Shouldn't have that been taken care of through closing? Well, the answer is absolutely yes, if in fact those supplemental taxes were available. But here's what happened. When we closed our transaction and we recorded an affidavit of death of trustee, the county picked up that that person had died August of 2020. So they went back in time and did a supplemental tax bill from August 2020 to the 23rd February 2023. And so there was this like $10,000 due, right, for supplemental taxes, which wasn't our issue. It belonged to the seller. But now you got to go collect, right? How are you going to do that? Well, eventually, because the county knows that things like this happen, eventually those will fall off the tax roll for the buyer and become what are called unsecured taxes. The good news is we were able to really dig in because, of course, everybody was upset, rightfully so. We were able to dig in and find out that the buyer had, the seller had in fact filed the parent-child exclusion, which would have meant that there should have been no increase in property taxes, but the county lost that document and didn't do it right. So good news is it's all being taken care of, but I will tell you, the bureaucracy of the county is mind-boggling, so when it comes to that kind of stuff, just make sure that you're looking through your title report. If there were defaulted taxes, it would be sitting right underneath this number 1. Okay, the next thing you see is the lien of supplemental or escape taxes. So this is really an exception, because we say, by the way, our policy isn't going to cover supplemental taxes or escape property taxes, because if they're not of record, we're not mind readers. We can't figure it out on our own, right? So we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Number 3 is a non-exclusive easement for the common area. Then any of this other stuff, I realize that it's all kind of like matters contained in that certain document. It's an agreement. Well, you need to click on every one of these to determine what they are. So these blue links are hyperlinks, and they're going to tell you what those are. So remember, we're still taking wood sticks or, pieces of, stems of flowers out till we get down to where we are here. The flower, bundle started like this, and now we're down to this because they have exceptions. And those exceptions aren't exceptions that we have. There are exceptions that are recorded against the property. So remember, I was telling you there's 2 types of searches, the property search and then the general index. These are all relevant to the property. So all of these encroachment and all this kind of stuff is probably when they built the property back in the day. Then we have some easements for, this one was from 1989 for American Television and Communication for cable TV. Now, I want to tell you something. You see where it says said land? That means that when this development was being developed, the cable TV came in and took an easement across the entire parcel. They never went back in and made a delineation of where that cable TV really is. So why it says said land is because we have no idea where that easement is. What they should have done, and what they should do, SDG&E, cable TV, any of these companies, after a subdivision is built, they should go back in and remove that particular one and re-record where the easement actually is. Now, if I'm a buyer, I might say, well, what do you mean? Where's my cable? How do I know? I'm going to put in a pool. Well, you do what's called a dig alert, and they come out and they tell you where everything is. But we can't plot those easements, okay? And I know that is, if you're brand new in the business, that is probably like way up here, and you're like, what the heck is she talking about? Well, again, if you want more information and you want to go through this a little bit more thoroughly, I certainly can. The other thing we have here are some CC&Rs. So CC&Rs are conditions, covenants, and restrictions. So if you have an HOA, you are typically going to have CC&Rs. You don't have to have an HOA to have CC&Rs. When the builder first built the property, they could have put these in place. And even if there's no HOA, they run with the property unless there's a termination agreement in the actual CC&Rs. And if there is, and we find that termination, we can delete these. But this just means that people can't paint their house pink. or whatever these say. They can't pay to pig, they can't have cows, they can't have this, they can't park the RV in the driveway, whatever that may be. If I'm a buyer's agent, and one thing that is super important to my buyer is to park their RV in the driveway because they're tired of paying for storage, and their CC&Rs on that property, I would make sure that buyer reads through those, because the last thing you want to have happen is they come after you because they say they can't park an RV, right? So you just want to make sure you're listening to people and what they're thinking about. We had a big deal about a condo that was sold in La Jolla where the CC&R said they could absolutely not have a barbecue on the deck. No barbecue. Well, and that was the one big thing that buyer wanted to be able to do, is to barbecue and look at the ocean. Well, too bad, you can't do it. He sued everybody. And I'm talking about the agents, not the title company, because it was in the CC&Rs. So be careful when you're, talking to people. Just make sure you understand this. And that's the reason why Shelly wanted me to come on here and talk a little bit about title insurance, because this is where you will get into big trouble. So that's why you lean into professionals, i.e. Alix Kammeyer, to understand what you're doing when it comes to this. And even if Shelly's representing a buyer, she'll sometimes send me the title report and say, hey, can you put your eyes on it and see if there's anything I really need to know about before, I just want to make sure, because she's flying fast. She's out there trying to get new listings and showing houses. I mean, there's no time for her to sit down and say, okay, let me really dig in, right? I mean, so the whole point is to have your team in place and your professionals in place that are going to help you to do that. That's why Dean exists in the lending field, because he's the professional. He's the one that knows what he's doing on the lending side. That's why you guys exist. You're the professionals in real estate. So that's the reason why that exists. So I've come to the end of my particular time here. And let's see, just to clarify, you recommend doing a preliminary before pulling a listing or active status? And the answer is yes. That was one comment, and that was from Leslie. So yes, I absolutely recommend, if you're going to do if you've taken a listing and you already have it signed, I highly recommend that you get a preliminary title report so that we can see what's going on. If you're just thinking about taking a listing and you're going out into see the property, get what's called a property profile. That's like a little tiny mini version of the preliminary title report. It is not a commitment for insurance. It just tells you what's on record at that moment in time. It doesn't do the general index search. It just does the property search at that point in time. So I'm going to stop sharing at this moment. And if you would like me to do another training like this, or you want more information, I am happy to help. So let me put my information right in this little chat, and then we'll finish it up. I know I talked really fast, but I wanted to be able to give you as much detail as we possibly could and cover at least a couple of the tools.
You did, Alix. Thank you so much. That was really helpful.
I had coffee. So there you go.
See?
There's a little caffeine in there for you. Just kidding.
And you're 100% right that for all of you, and we're going to find out if George can use Fidelity out there, but for all of you that are here in California, having that Fidelity agent app on here is huge. And then just being able to talk to Alix, because I know, as she just said, that if I send anything to Alix, I can give her any address, anything I need. She's going to get all the dirt on it. And I feel confident. I don't have to go through and do all of that myself. So I'm very grateful for you, Alix.
Thank you. So George, I want to just tell you that Fidelity Agent 1 is absolutely available in Arizona. It's the Fidelity Total Farm that I'm going to circle back to you on whether or not you can do that in Arizona. We have some other tools too, which we don't have time to go into. So again, my information is in there. If you want to send me an email and just say, hey, I'd love to, connect and see if there's anything that I can do. Chris and I have already had some good conversation. I looked at a property for him. And I am happy to do whatever kind of digging. If you have a buyer that's looking and you need zoning information, happy to help. Shelly, thank you for having me today. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Alix.
Real quick, are you the Carlsbad branch for FNT on this app? I'm just doing the app right as we speak here.
Yep, that's perfect.
Okay,
yep.
Cool.
Carlsbad FNT. Yep, that's perfect.
Thank you.
I have a quick question on the total farm stuff. Is that only for single family residential and condo? Will it work for 1 to 4 units? Do they have that kind of information?
You can do 1 to 4 units as well.
Oh, good.
Yep. Right. When you create a farm in there, George, there's a place where you're going to pick what you want. Vacant land, 2 to 4 units, single family condo, whatever the case may be. So yes, absolutely.
Perfect.
Great.
Thank you.
Great. Dean, is there anything I can help you with?
No, I'm good for now.
Okay, good.
Yeah, appreciate
well, it's nice to see your face again. I haven't seen you in a while.
I haven't seen you in a long time.
I know, my hair's still long.
Yeah,
And your hair's still
mine's
white and I love it.
it's whiter. My forehead's getting bigger. Every video I look at, I'm like, oh my God.
I know that's
You
what
look
happens.
handsome.
We
Don't worry
don't
about
all go to Caravan anymore, right?
I know. I know. We don't get to see each other as much. Well, thank you guys very much. And thank you for letting me do the little interruption to call out a good closing today. We were
Oh,
excited about that.
congratulations. Yeah,
No,
Thank you.
congrats.
That's
That's always
awesome.
good news.
Good,
Yeah, I
good.
know it is. All right,
I
you
have
guys.
one
Right, everybody.
last quick question too, if Alex,
Sure.
you have to go?
Go for it. I'm
Okay,
good.
this may or may not be a retarded question because I'm really new, but Shelly was telling us that one of the things that's coming up recently that's potentially threatening deals is fire insurance. Is there any way that this tool can be used to preempt that, or is that
No.
completely unrelated?
Unfortunately, no, but I am going to type in, and Shelly, you might know this person. I don't know. Do you have somebody that you work with, Shelly, who's really
Yes.
good on the fire? Who do you use?
I use Hal Wilson with farmers.
Okay, so
And
I'm going to
also
type in another.
Toby. We have 2 guys with farmers actually.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to type in another one. If you don't mind, I don't want to overstep what you're doing, but I want to just send this guy's name to you because he has done a lot of work on this fire thing. Before I do that though, do you want me to type in this person's name?
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, that's
Dean,
fine.
Okay.
Dean, why don't you
And
put
second,
Toby's info in also in the chat for people?
and then secondly, I know that one of the things that is, that a lot of companies are pulling out of California. And so this might just be another resource for you to pre-qualify, when you're looking at a buyer, pre-qualify their property to see whether or not. So his name is Seth Aruda. And he's just never not been able to do something. So
Thank you so
some
much.
people may even know that name. So I just typed in his information.
Yes. Seth's
And-
one of my backup guys.
Oh, good.
There you go. So
Yeah.
Dean knows him. I figured somebody knew him because he's been around for a long, long time. But anyway, so yeah, that has nothing to do with our side, but I can tell you that if property is located in the county of San Diego, and what I mean by that is not in an actual form city like it's in Ramona or Valley Center or some, areas that are considered county versus the city of Carlsbad or the city of Oceanside or whatever that might look like, there is such a thing as a zoning map. And in that zoning or a zoning summary report, it'll tell you if it's in a super high fire area too. So if you have questions, just think of me as your air traffic controller, right? And I am the one that knows, I know a lot of stuff. I know a lot of stuff.
Hey,
And if I don't
jump in here
know,
real
I'm
quick,
going to
Alex?
say that again.
Can I jump in real quick?
Yeah, please.
Wait, when you take a listing, get that address and get a hold of your preferred insurance person.
100%.
And just get an idea what the quote is. Because I had one, I just closed it Monday, and it was with a really good friend of mine. And Hal knows, you might know Keith Roby.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So me and Roby, and the minute I got the address, I called Roby. I said, dude, we got to get a fire insurance quote. He goes, I'm way ahead of you, buddy.
Yeah.
He already done it because he used to be a farmer's agent as well.
Yeah.
So, but the point was that insurance, we had to go to the fair plan and get what's called a wrap.
Mm-hmm.
And, it was probably $100 per month higher than, and they can be several $1,000s
Yes.
now.
Yes.
And that can blow your deal up, especially from a debt to income ratio standpoint.
Definitely. Leslie and I were just talking about that this morning as well. And it's good to do that, or it's imperative when you do have buyers and you're actively going to write an offer on a house and it looks like they're going to get it. You want to make sure what that fire insurance cost is going to be before you get, 3 weeks into it. And then all of a sudden the deal's blowing up because their insurance is $6,000 a year.
Yep.
So yes, all good info. We could go on all day, right? About all of this. So thanks everyone. And we went over, but appreciate all of you being here. And we'll see you again on the 26th for our next rally.
Thanks again.
Thanks again,
Thank you.
Alex.
Good info, Alex.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Have
you.
a good day. Bye-bye.